Hello friends, thank you very much for joining in. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And today I have with me one of my student, Shimanshu, and he has already cleared FRM level 2. And he's going to talk about his journey of clearing FRM and also his experience in the industry after completing FRM. Okay. So hello Himanshu, thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
And I really appreciate that you're taking out time for other students and the candidates to help understand regarding FRM. So that's wonderful gesture. And let's have a quick discussion regarding the FRM, and then we'll move towards your experience in the industry. Okay. When you started preparing for FRM, okay, what were you doing? What was your experience around that point in time?
Okay, so when I started preparing for FRM, I actually gave my level 1 back in November 2018. So before that, I was working with two PP organizations in an operation role. So I did not have that much exposure to a lot of financial instruments like options, bonds, and stuff like that. I heard about them, but I've not valued them, or never knew the payoff, how they work. So I was not aware about that. So when I started FRM at the first place for level 1, I had like a 20% exposure to the financial instrument, not more than that. So
okay.
So it was like that.
And how many years of experience you had before you started your preparation?
So somewhere around 2 years of experience of KPO. Two years of experience of KPO.
Okay, and then you cleared level 1 in November 2018 in the first attempt, right?
Yeah, I cleared in the first attempt in November 2018.
When you were preparing for the exam, okay, how many times were you able to read Swayam before going for the exam?
Yeah, so Kaplan, I read it like twice or thrice, twice or thrice. So there were some concepts which were like difficult to remember. So the arch model, the time series kind of thing, that was difficult to remember. So I made sure that I read that concept twice, thrice, or even 4 times to make sure that the concept, I have a grip on the concept, because I know for FRM, they would not ask you direct questions. So they would, hint around with something. So I was very, very committed towards the chapters which were difficult to understand, so that I can get a grip on it.
Okay. So you basically identified a lot of difficult concepts or chapters, and then you did more revision of that concept. And were you able to solve the entire question bank the chapter-wise questions, before you went for the exam?
Yes, I solved each and every question. The Kaplan 2 marks which we had, plus the the Kaplan question which we have after the chapters, that was all solved, plus the question bank, plus the notes which I got from various other sources. I solved each and every one of them, because I need to get maximum kind of exposure to what kind of question which would be asked in the exam. So I was solving very intensive question banks at that point of time.
Okay. And how many roundabout questions you might have solved? 2,000, 3,000, what, any number?
Somewhere around 2,000. Somewhere around 2,000, that's for sure. Somewhere around 2,000.
Okay. And then you started immediately for your level 2 preparation, and you appeared for level 2 in May 2019. And you also cleared that exam in the first attempt. So at that point in time, there were like 5 books for FRM level 2. So what was the experience with those 5 books?
It was not good. It is tough. The level 2 kind of thing is very tough. So especially the operation risk part, I have faced a lot, because operation risk, leaving aside Basel and repos and stuff like that, most of the operation risk book is of theory, and you need to you cannot by heart everything. Sometimes you need to understand, but I was not able to understand those theories because it was more of by hearting. So operation risk was the one thing which I had a lot of difficulty, preparing for. But other books like market risk, credit risk, investment risk, these books were like my forte, because they had numericals, they had some concept of wire which were in my interest. So I was able to grasp more things, and I was able to work on those things. But operation risk is the one which I face a lot of difficulty on.
Okay. And were you able to read the entire 5 books more than one times before going for the exam?
Yeah, both the levels. For level 1, for level 2, I was able to read the both for level 2 all the 5 books. I have read it twice or thrice, not less than that. I remember that.
And you're referring to Swagger itself, right? Swagger book?
Yeah, I'm referring to Swagger's book, yeah.
Okay. And you are also able to solve the institute level questions which were provided by us, the entire chapter wise questions for the exam. That proper solving was possible for you before the exam, right?
Yeah, so every time I read a chapter, I make sure that I solve the questions for that. I did not wait for entire book to complete and then I would solve the question banks chapter wise. I would, because that concept is fresh in my mind. So I would do one chapter, solve the questions, look at what went wrong, analyze what went wrong, and then move on to the next chapter. I was not in a hurry to prepare all the things at once and then, start solving the question bank.
Okay. And so exam, when you went for the exam, was the exam very tough or was it similar to what the question bank looked like?
It was difficult than the question bank, that's for sure, because the questions which came, I've seen for the first time that for one question, there were 4 options from 4 books. So you need to be very, very sure about the concept which you are reading, because when you are not sure with the concept, you cannot even mark the answers. So they would give you one scenario. It was more like a case-oriented questions or scenario-based questions. So they would give you one scenario. They would give you 4 options. The 4 options would contain all the things from all 4 books, and then you have to figure out which one would be the right answer. So you need to also read the question properly to understand what they are asking. They might ask about market risk, but you might end up marking answer for investment risk. So that thing was very difficult to understand, because at once I was was facing difficult. But when I got the hang, because of solving the question bank again and again, but in the exam when I went, I was not very nervous, but I was facing difficulties when I solved the questions in the exam.
But out of that 80 questions, you were able to solve majority of them, or what was your experience?
So I target 80% accuracy every time when I give the exam. So 80%, like 64 questions, like I've solved the entire paper, but I was very, very sure about the 60 to 65 question that I would get that with 80% accuracy. So if that I can achieve that level, I'm sure that I would clear the exam.
Okay. Now, when you cleared the exam, you got the result and all. Now, after that, primarily, you were looking out for job also into the risk domain. Okay. What has been your experience for that searching of that job? Because you never had a risk background. Primarily, the work experience that you had was primarily operations. Now, when you were looking out for risk, okay, what all challenges you faced? What all kind of questions being asked in the interview, and how you were able to get your first risk role?
So when I started, after clearing FRM level 2, when I started going on the making resume, applying for jobs. So first initially there was no such kind of overwhelming response, but after that, after some point of time, I got interview calls. I have for in 1 month I gave around 5 to 6 interviews, and most of them went on a good side. So the question which were asked were about option Greeks, like how would you replicate the long vega strategy, how would you replicate long gamma strategy, how would you replicate that. Then I was asked about duration, I was asked about VAR, how is the VAR calculated, 3 approaches of VAR, historical, delta normal, Monte Carlo, and few things about Basel. And also depends on which role I'm applying to. So if I'm applying for a Basel reporting role, they would concentrate their interview more on the Basel reporting kind of thing, which is there in the operational risk part. But if I'm going for hedge fund reporting, they would more concentrate on different type of financial products like equity, swaps, interest rate swap. How would you value those? What are the things affecting bonds, duration, and stuff like that? Because hedge fund has a big portfolio of equity, swaps, bonds, and stuff like that. So it also depends on which role I'm applying. So the question would change, but the VAR, option Greeks, bond valuation, equity valuation, these questions remain the same from across across regardless of what interview I give.
Right. And also, so primarily whatever you have read in FRM, they were testing that similar kind of concepts in the interview also.
Right? Yeah, they are testing the same kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. And you do not have any MBA background. It's basically graduation plus FRM.
Yeah,
And so you
yeah,
got into the first risk role. Okay. Now,
yeah.
was that a full-time role that you entered into, or it was a consulting role?
Um, it was kind of like a contractual role which I entered
Hmm.
into. So basically, contractual role are those roles where if you perform well, you would get converted. So
Right.
that was one of the lagging behind, that you are not a permanent employee of the organization. So,
Hmm.
but but if you perform well, you definitely get converted. So I went to CS as a contractual role. So then I worked over there for like 5 to 6 months. Then I came to line
So for
to the
that
different
six
company.
months, what has been your experience? I mean, the learning was very heavy. I mean, you were able to learn a lot of new things, and how people looked at you as an FRM candidate or FRM cleared candidate for that 6 months. I wanted to understand that experience.
So it's basically more like the logic which you're applying. So in CS, I was calculating stress var, normal var, RWA. So people were expecting some sort of things from you because you are an FRM clear candidate. People are
True.
not expecting you that you would be starting from scratch. You should have some kind of background about RWAs. You should know how to handle the escalation on var and RWAs. So you need to work on those things prior to when you go to any of the roles when you are going to risk, because when you're an FRM cleared candidate, people do have some kind of expectation from you.
Okay.
And what your second question was, sir?
I'll come to that. I mean, I wanted to ask you related to your
Yeah.
major experience on the that 6 months, but I'm coming just one step back. And during your journey of finding that risk role, okay, what were the major challenges that you faced?
So not being from an risk background was kind of like one of the heavy setback for me, that you are
Mhm.
not from a risk background. So people would not take you first hand, or people not prioritize your profile first. They would prioritize the people who are working already in risk. So that was one of the lags I had in when I was looking for a job, but that was for a very short time. When you look out for
Mhm.
an opportunity, it's not that you go into big fours or like IBs and stuff like that. If you even if you work in some smaller companies for the risk role, they carry a lot of pride when you work in the risk profile. They are also doing heavy kind of tasks, and the kind of things I learned when
Mhm.
I worked in one of the companies. I got to know a lot of more things about a risk profile and about valuing the instruments more. So it's not that it would be there for life. It would be there for a short period of time for some.
Okay, so primarily you did face initial challenge with respect to moving from the
Yeah.
operation to risk, and did FRM help you in terms of shortlisting your CV to the industry? What happened? Does the primary question being, because a lot of people they give FRM because they want to change their career. So
Yeah.
has that helped you?
Obviously, when you have that FRM kind of charter in your resume, it would definitely bring some kind of weightage to your profile. Right now, I've seen a lot of companies, in their JDs, they're mentioning that FRM and CFA is mandatory. So it did bring a lot of opportunities. So if I would have entered into risk without FRM, I would have never landed in a risk job. That's for sure.
Okay.
But if
Okay.
the FRM kind of thing, with the knowledge I have, with the certificate, weightage which I would get, I would
Mhm.
definitely got my resume shortlisted in few companies so that I can work, so that I can give an interview, at least give an interview. After that, it depends on me whether I can perform in the interview or not.
Okay. Okay. And so, was the first job that was only difficult, or you faced difficulty after applying for every job because you were only graduate plus FRM, or was it only at the start?
No, only at the start, to be very honest. Only at the start, when you get into risk, that profile comes into your into your portfolio, that okay, this guy has worked in risk, so he has a knowledge in risk. After that, everything sorts out immediately. When you have a risk profile in your resume for an IB, definitely a lot of companies are attracted towards the profile. They would also call you upfront that we have an opening over here, we have an opening over there.
Mhm.
So definitely, first job is difficult to get. but it's not for like long period of time. You would definitely land up into a job, that's for sure. But after that, everything would be, a smooth journey. After that, you would be considering a lot of roles.
So you completed that 6 months and you moved to a new organization, right?
Yeah.
So what has been your experience in that interview? So what all queries that they asked, and was it easy to move to the new industry or new company? And so what has been your experience after completing that first 6 months of risk work that you got and moving to different, if I'm not wrong, you have now changed the company. It's a second company after that. So what
Yeah.
has been your experience in these two companies in terms of interviews, in terms of getting a role?
So interviews remains the same. They would ask you a lot of questions on, option breaks, bond valuation, bond duration, beta, var, and stuff like that. The interviews more or less remains the same. There's not a
Mhm.
lot of difference between two companies' interviews, because they would test on the concept which we have studied, and also they would test you on the concept which you have which you are working on. So basically, if you're working on Basel, they would definitely test you on Basel also. Even if their company does not require Basel in specific, but they would test you on Basel to know that you are coming from that background. So
Okay.
moving into a different company, so it feels like, when we are having one kind of experience, now you are in a place where you have to deliver something from your side, like independently. So now you are not dependent on anyone. You cannot, I'm not saying you cannot ask your help to friends, friends to help you out, but there is a lot of expectation going up when you're coming from a risk background to a different company altogether.
Right, right. And so I'm just going back to the initial days when you started your FRM preparation, when you were in the operation role. From there till now, what has been? Can you summarize the entire journey?
Entire journey, it's been a difficult journey, that's for sure, but I'm happy that I kept that resilience and strength to, make sure that I can match up to the level of the people who are working over here. So basically, risk profile are the ones which are having a lot of work as such, because risk profile, when IBs have their traders and they want their risk person to support them in terms of,
Mhm.
giving how much risk that the traders are taking. So definitely, coming from an KPO background, where we did an operation role. I'm not saying that role was bad. The role definitely gave me a lot of new learnings. But coming from that to going into the risk, it's like going from one planet to another planet, because
Okay.
it's a very, very exciting journey, but also you need to be very, very sure of what kind of things you would be doing. When I was in operations role, I was doing work, but when I came over here, I'm taking work from other locations and doing it independently over here, so that I can bring that kind of work over here in my office. So
Okay.
the role changed, the accountability changed, the responsibility changed, and that's where I have grown a lot.
Okay. Okay. Great. Now, few tips for people who are planning to change job. They want to move from operations to risk. They want to move from sales to risk. Any few tips that you can help them out with, because you've seen that journey. So, I want to understand
Yeah.
how your experience can help them primarily.
So if you're willing to come in risk, definitely you need something like FRM. That's for sure. Without that,
Mm.
it's difficult to come in risk profile for any of the IBs. So when you're applying for a job or applying for something which is not your which is not your experience earlier, you
Mhm.
need to be very, very sure of what you need to understand the JD first. What kind of things they are expecting from you? If there are in market risk, there are basal reporting, there is risk reporting, there is a lot of other things going on. So you
Mhm.
need to understand the role. For according to that, you need to prepare yourself for the interview. I'm not saying the other concept you should just leave behind. You have to get the grip on it. But the main chunks, like if I talk about basal reporting, you need to know about basal. You need to know about how the stress RWA calculated, stress Y is calculated. If you
Okay.
mess up on that, the entire interview goes for a toss. So
Mm.
when you're coming from a different background altogether to the risk, definitely one certification helps you, but also you need to prove yourself that okay, you are suitable for this role. Coming from a different background, it's okay, but now you are willing to shift into the risk department, and you have that particular ability and credibility to do the work of risk.
Okay. Okay. So primarily, FRM will help you to reach to that interview, but how do you perform in that interview? That's where your knowledge, your learning from outside, your curriculum will help you to get that confidence and get that a good role in your critic, right? Now,
Yeah, yeah,
perfect. So thank you very much, Himanshu. I mean, this conversation is definitely going to help the students or people who are looking out to change their industry and explicitly after completing FRM. So there are certain challenges that you faced and you have shared with that, and what industry experiences are being asked into in terms of interview. You have explicitly mentioned that. And after completing your FRM, it's been your third job, right? Almost third job now
yeah,
that you are entering into.
yeah,
You had a gap. You faced certain challenges during that period, and I know we used to have the conversation. And
yeah,
initially, we were talking that okay, why I'm not getting job after FRM, but gradually that
yeah.
changed. Now, one more last question. Sorry. So right now, what do you see in the industry when we look at risk roles? Okay, entry level risk roles. Is it is FRM really helping now? Because you faced certain struggle initially that 2 years.
Yeah.
What is the situation now?
So situation is getting better because of the COVID kind of thing. The situation was a bit on a loser side, but now the situation is getting better. People are hiring a lot. I've seen people from people from various backgrounds, from sales to they are going to market risk. I've seen that. So people are getting hired, and FRM would also play a major chunk of role. I've seen a lot of companies mentioning FRM in their in their profile, that FRM or CFA is mandatory to enter into risk. So
Right.
FRM does play a lot of role, and if in case you are applying without an FRM, there is high chances that your CVs would not get even shortlisted.
Okay.
In my company, there is a proper criteria that okay, if you're not a CV for FRM, that most of the time, like 9 out of 10 times, your CV won't get shortlisted. If you are coming from a risk background, that's a different thing altogether. But if you don't have an FRM CFA,
Hmm.
then it's very tough to get yourself into a risk domain.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much, Himanshu, for sharing this experience with the new guys, people who are going to watch this interview. And I'm sure they will also be able to, they will be motivated to take these certification exams and also understand that if you want to change your career to a new stream or new domain, then definitely you will have to learn about that domain. And the certification helps you to do that and also gain confidence in that domain primarily. So thank you very much, Himanshu, for your time. And I really appreciate you taking out time and helping others in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.